So we're just warming up the stream,
We're
right?
fucking this up tonight really
I'm
bad.
just revving this engine.
We don't have the tomb weighing us down. We can.
The weight
just
has been
letting free.
lifted.
Yep. That it has.
We're just living free.
Living free. Live free, die hard. Die harder.
Can we all breathe? Like into the nose, out through the mouth.
So let's do some announcements right off the top. We'll get that done first. Follow us at DadBodDnd if you're listening to us on podcast format. You can come to Twitch, follow us here, catch us live streaming, interact and chat. If you're in Twitch, you can, if you've missed an episode or you want to go back and finish the Tomb of Annihilation, we're on YouTube at DadBodDnd or where any podcast can be found at DadBodDnd. Remember, it's an N, not the ampersand.
An ampersand.
So that's very specific. We come up with an N very regularly. Without the N, we're lower in the search results. So follow us at DadBodDnd. We're at Twitter. We just got our Instagram going. It's DadBodDnd. Pretty easy, I think.
Check it out.
It's dank.
We don't
So
have
many
memes
memes.
there. We don't have any memes there. No memes. Big news. We did a dice giveaway last Friday, which Timmy Nips won. But
Congratulations to him.
But it was a sponsored giveaway by Skull Splitter Dice. So we are officially sponsored by Skull Splitter Dice. If you want to order some dice, you didn't win. I know you're sad. We're all sad. We have a link that you can get 10% off, which Binks has his.
Can you show us?
Yeah,
today.
Show that
I got
off.
mine today.
Can you open it?
They're so freaking nice.
Dude, that little
Like,
tin is worth it alone.
yeah, they're so nice. I got the Warlock set with the pink or the purple lettering. Can't get too close, but they feel really nice. The case is nice and compact. Good place to hold them. Shipping was like super fast. It came. They're in Florida. I'm on the West Coast. Took like 3-4 days.
Yeah,
Nice.
I just bought mine today. I bought the icy blue. Excited, man. They're worth the money. So, but we got some discounts for you if you want. You can use DadBod promo code. It's DadBod, one word, and get 10% off. So, check that out. All right. Enough advertising.
Well, they also have the Kickstarter going, which is a pretty cool deal. It's not live yet, but you can go in and you can check it out. You can enter to win a free Kickstarter level. I don't know what it is, an early backer, I think. You can go do that. 3 different sets of dice in there with some adventures that you get with it that go with the dice. So each set of dice has its own adventure. It's kind of cool little deal. Just check that out. I think it goes live in like 2 or 3 days, something like that.
Let's do this. I've kept my lips sealed for an entire week.
We did finish Tomb of Annihilation, and we will be talking about it tonight. So it's the Postmortem. We're going to talk about how we like the module, our reaction to it. Talk about maybe an alternate universe where maybe we won, and then we talk about some of what the characters would have done. So where the tomb ended was the party made it to the Atropole, which is the Soul Monger, and that was the giant monstrosity that was guarding it. And you guys made short work of that. You did pretty well. Maybe a little overconfident at that point. And as soon as the Soul Monger fell into the lava and destroyed, you did see all of the souls rush out and maybe re-enter their old hosts or go to the astral plane where they're normally at. Where we don't know, right? Obviously, you don't know that. And then you guys face to face with Serac, the famous arch lich that you fared pretty well. You guys did very well. Unfortunately, you died. Kylie, you did make it out, and then you wished him to you, and he murdered you. Which, there was some chat controversy there, but so that's where we were left off. Anything you guys want to talk about how last session ended? So we'll go into your thoughts of last session, real quick.
I don't think it could have ended any better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and at first, I felt a little salty that, a TPKA took place and, Binks is gone. And, but after editing through the VOD and kind of getting it and looking at it again, I don't think it could have ended any better. There was some epic moments in that final session that, you couldn't have planned. Like, and I don't know if we want to go into some of those.
But this will be a spoiler laden episode.
Yeah,
We should say it up front.
I'll go to the biggest one, and that's Devin grappling the Lich and jumping into the lava with the natural 20 on the strength check. I mean, you can't plan that shit. When the one moment you need to have the best roll of your life, you got it. That's like, that shit doesn't happen all the time, and it happened for us in that moment, and it was like just this moment where we kind of all lost our shit. It didn't work out in the end, but we didn't know that. It was an epic moment, and I don't think Vinny, I mean, I may be speaking for Devin here, but I don't think Vinny would want to go any other way.
Yeah, I think the awesome thing about how it ended is we technically won. The point of Tomb of Annihilation is to destroy the Soul Monger. Check. We did that. We all got murked, but we did it. And honestly, like, so Tomb of Annihilation, for those that maybe don't know, it's kind of like a meat grinder. Like, the whole point is, like, everything is super deadly, as opposed to maybe other D&D games where you're going to focus more on the narrative and focus on the storyline, and there might be some deadlier moments than others. There's multiple points where, like, you can just instantly die in Tomb of Annihilation. So the fact that we won the game but still ended up all dying is so just appropriate for the Tomb.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely like the word appropriate better than couldn't have happened better. Appropriate is absolutely
All
accurate.
right. I'll give you that.
I think a happier ending would have been technically better, but definitely much less appropriate. I really am happy with the way it ended, though. I think a TPK, after getting the Soul Monger and all that stuff taken care of, was...
I agree. And, I mean, that fight was pretty great. And it was pretty unwinnable from the start. And when you guys... when your
spell save DC is 28 and your modifier is 6.
There's no way.
There's no fucking way.
Nope.
Yeah, there's no way.
The only way was if we were in Victon's aura and he gives us his charisma mod bump, we would all have to roll a natural 20.
I think Kylie was one off on a roll. You were
Yes,
one off.
she was.
Yep. Yeah, so close.
I saved on one roll, and that was it.
So okay, so those are initial reactions. We'll break the module down in a second, but I do want to do a world wrap up. So what happens after the party defeats the Soul Monger? What happens after you guys, make the effort, do it? What happens to the rest of the world? Because I think it'd be a fitting close. So after the events of the Soul Monger, Syndra, who, if you guys remember, was the very first person that was introduced in the tomb, and you kind of pan to her, and the moment that falls, that death curse lifts, and the pale white skin that she had, it has regained its fleshy color. So it's that natural, like pink and almost tan, because she's been in Port Nine's Aru for long enough. But that skin regains its color. She waits a month or so in Port Nine's Aru for the return of who she hired to fix this. And after nobody returns, she decides to make the trek back to Baldur's Gate. And keeping true to her promise to you guys, rewards you handsomely. And, she's well off and it doesn't really matter. She tries to track down any known relatives of Rosara, Bram, Binks, Ragnar, and Pixie. She's only able to find one relative, and that is Rosara's. So once she does find Rosara's family farm, she has a wagon of gold delivered. Devin, I would like to ask you, what would your family do with a wagon of gold?
Rizar was the oldest of 11 brothers and sisters. They lived at the base of a mountain where there was a temple, a dwarven temple, and I think they would have probably given a lot of money to the temple. I am trying to remember who her god was. Dwarven god of the forge.
Yeah, it was the forge.
So the backstory on her was that she joined up with the temple and became a follower because she wanted a way to leave. And so I think seeing this wagon of gold and being told that it was from something that Rizara had done, and she didn't say goodbye to them. It's like a big part of her character was she doesn't like goodbyes. I think they would have probably kept it for a long time, waiting for her to come back. And when she didn't, I think they would have probably given Onatar, they would have given all of it to the temple. They're halflings. They don't have much use for gold as it is, but they would have thought that a fitting tribute to Rizara.
And the other portion gets set up in Baldur's Gate, and it gets set up in the form of almost like a charity. It's called the Harbor Boys Refuge, and it's a place for those homeless, maybe parents died during a war, a disease, a plague, something, found themselves on the street, in a way to commemorate Binks, who so valiantly gave his life. She noted it as the Harbor Boys Refuge, and it has enough space, enough funds to keep the majority of street urchin children off the streets. What would you imagine that looking like, Binks?
Well, in this, I actually wrote a postmortem if Binks survived, and that was actually the first thing he would do is he would come back and create this an orphanage of sorts, but it's more than that, and it is a place for these forgotten or these poor children or abused children or orphan children to kind of have a place. And he would make sure that they have access to like just education and training and kind of honing any natural abilities that they have. But he would also just make sure that they have access to a family, like something that maybe that's why they are on the streets and struggling so much. But he would make sure that this is a place to build this family structure for them. And I think that's what Binks was always kind of searching for. And one of the main reasons why he took this quest to go to Cholt is because he didn't have the means to build a family of his own with just being a harbor boy. So he took this, and that's like a perfect ending. And I think Binks would be overexcited to know that that's happening, and these other kids, these other boys are being taken care of. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, and so spanning out further than just your guys' direct involvement, unfortunately Bram, Ragnar, and Pixie, those were the other three members of the original party. And the other newer members, so Victon, Willow, Vinny, Silver, Zelstri, Idiadios, all of these other characters that come in and out, you guys are unsung heroes. Nobody will ever speak your name for what you've done, because joining in the middle of the jungle, nobody knows you were there. Nobody knows that you risked, you gave your life for everybody else. And so panning out further from just the direct influence of the party, you see that the local chapels, the priests, the clergy, whatever, they're able to give some of these resurrection things that they haven't been able to do in the past. They're able to give people life back after they've passed away. And so you guys get, not you as a party, but just the world is restored to its normal place. And unfortunately, you didn't get to beat the Archlich Acerak. He's still out there, and he's still causing trouble. So with the world wrap up, is there anything, Victon, you want to add, Willow, you want to add, that you may want to add just a little bit of flavor to.
I have nothing to add flavor to. My clan died. My character died. There's nobody to survive or live on his legacy in any way, shape, or form. So
Sorry.
his is probably the most sad story of them all to end, I would say, fortunately.
Yeah, I would agree. What about you, Willow?
I think that I would add that Willow's sister never really had closure. Her sister kind of disappeared on this great adventure that they were happy-go-lucky supposed to go on. And then, Willow never appeared again.
Do you think she's out there still searching?
I think she probably searched for a little while, and then I think she probably settled down, got over the wild travel streak, settled down, probably had like a family, named a daughter after her or something.
Nice.
Did she know you were looking for her and trying to meet up? Was that like a planned thing, or what?
They were supposed to go to Waterdeep, and they were going to go on an adventure together, and they ended up on 2 different ships, and then she was going to go back to Waterdeep after they got off Chult.
So do you think the sister would have thought that Willow just found the adventures more interesting than she was?
No, I think that they were close enough that she would have assumed something happened to her.
Good. I like that. Much better than what I was thinking. So
Nice. I like that. And she was pretty young, right? You guys were both like under 20?
Yeah.
Were you
You're like the kid. She was like the kid that goes on spring break and just is like missing.
Yep, that's exactly what.
Oh shit! Man. Shit. Hey, good times, everybody.
I know. Sad. So sad.
And then last, Vinny, anything, any wrap up in your world that you would like to see happen here?
No. I think it was well established by Vinny's character that anybody he cared about died with him in the tomb. He came in with no friends. He came in with no one that he could truly say was family, that treated him like family. He came in with no purpose in life, and no, I have nothing.
I think that's fitting too for Vinny, to be honest.
Yeah, that's Vinny.
And so that's the wrap up. That's how this story is going to end. Not everything's happy, not everything's a good ending, but the suffering of a few made it better for the masses.
But I think, like Devin said, though, we were successful. We righted the biggest wrong, and that was getting the Soul Monger taken away, and now people can lay to rest however they do. Everything is back. Not saying that the Lich is not going to go right back to work creating a new one. Like, that's somebody else's job now, but we did our part. And I think in a game like Tomb of Annihilation, we can hang our hat on that. We can check that box. We get gold stars. Like, we did it. And
yeah, and you guys got pretty close to and so just looking at it, he was out of pretty high level spell slots. He had a lot.
They're just not all at will.
No, unfortunately not. But he was down to about 100 after Vinny decided to take him into the lava. He was down to about 110 hit points out of 285. So you guys
bloodied him. Oh shit!
Yeah.
So going back to kind of that last episode, that really highlighted our deficiency as a party makeup.
Yes.
Having like a good collection of classes. We had no spell. True. I mean, the druid Willow was our spellcaster. That was it. And that's like, and then we had like Simber. We had Victon. We had Lulu Canoe. Those are all melee kind of people, man. Azaka is truly a melee a fighter. It's tough when he's sitting over there just throwing out pot shots like power word kills and clouds. It's like, what do you do? You have nothing to kind of counteract that.
Yeah,
I think that really was our biggest.
Yeah,
and it's not a flaw in any of us. We're just playing characters that we wanted to play, so It didn't work with this tomb.
To put this in Overwatch terms, we were a team of Reinhardts facing a Pharah. Good luck to us.
Right.
But no, and that's true. And it's funny as I feel like the whole lead up to the tomb almost like okey doked us, right? Because up until then, we hadn't run into anybody who threw magic spells. Like there was not a single person we fought who was like a magic user. The Oni kind of,
Yeah, I was gonna
but
say
even
that.
then, he's all up in your face. Like he's like right there, so your melee guys can get to him. And it's such a meat grinder that we all think, I cannot be a wizard. I will get one shot. I can't play a rogue. I'm gonna get murked immediately. And so I think we all thought, I need to play paladin. I need to play cleric. I need to play druid who can wild shape into a bear. We were all and then like Banks and I from the very beginning, like our characters like, I need to play like the long range sniper. I need to put in lots of damage right out the gate. It wasn't a good mixture. And this week I went and I read a lot of the Tomb book, and there's so many places in there where they go, a magic caster can cast Dispel Magic. A magic caster can cast Banishment. A magic caster can do this. And I'm like, nope,
None
can't
of
do that. Couldn't have done this.
Yeah.
Can't do this.
Yeah. And I mean, that part of, and before we get too deep into this, because we're kind of bleeding into our last topic of the module review, but part of it is we changed our mentality of this module. We changed it from that meat grinder, and we already had the party composition that wasn't the best when we made that change. So there's like, I know some of you guys had some different characters lined up if this one died, but we made that change and nobody died from there on out until the very end. And it's like, well, shit, maybe we shouldn't have, because maybe we needed that.
So one question I had for the group, and I thought about this a lot this week. How could we have done that differently? What could we have done as a party, current makeup, to actually make it out?
I'm talking, how could we have been successful with the four of us that were in the tomb with those characters? Ooh.
Yeah. So not really alternate reality, what happened to your character. What could we have done better as a party? Like, first of all, like, I know my thought on it is, we're murder hobo to the max. Like, we should have started running. We should have found a way over to the blue portal, and we should have made a run for it.
So I think, like, if we could have figured out a way to get the Soul Monger down without ruining and breaking all the struts, all the connectors, and been able to now have a bridge that gets us to the other platforms, and then who knows what are in those urns, we could mess around with those. If we got the blue light that Willow was able to go through, like, that's, I think, was our, if I could change one thing, let's figure out how to get the Soul Monger down and leave the struts up so that we can now get up there and move around. Some of those melee characters can now get in the face of, because imagine Liu Canoe in the face of the Lich. Okay, now that person that we don't give a shit about is taking the heat, and then we can sit back and pop some shots at him. I think it's a little different outcome.
Well, and I think from behind the screen, the only difference, the only thing you could have changed, because if he had very, very good crowd control, he had very good dominate. So if Liu Canoe gets up in his face, he's going to dominate, and now you're fighting him and Liu. The only outcome, and kind of this is going to be in your ballpark, was the wish. The only thing that would have got you through that fight was the wish. That's the only thing. No matter how. Go ahead.
I kind of wanted to use the wish a little bit, but I felt like I also wanted to see the story play out without it. So I was like, I'm just going to hold on to it and see what happens.
And maybe that's not fair. There's minor things you could have changed, but I think the biggest game changer was going to be that wish in the current makeup that you have, because the moment that you get face to face with Acerak is when Power Word Kill came out, is when Dominate Monster comes out. He also has a hold.
What was the Cloud one? Cloud kill or
Cloud Kill. He also has a time stop. So time
Oh,
stop
Jesus.
is essentially where he just stops time for you guys, and he can move around and reset himself up where he wants.
yeah.
But the moment he like attacks you is when time picks back up.
Oh, I was just gonna say it was awesome to fight somebody that powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
we other than the Oni, we never really fought. There were some times where we were challenged and we were kind of, some people went down and some people lost their life, but it was more just like an accident, where this was like, dude, if we make a wrong step, we are screwed and going to die. So it was fun to kind of sit there and really have to think through your moves in that last arena, I guess.
That was great.
Yeah. So I've got to ask about the wish, though. So, what was your thought process about bringing all of us, including Atherak, out of the tomb?
I thought that I could go find a healer, or I could go find somebody to resurrect you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I was worried that if I left you guys in there, that I would have to go back through the tomb by myself, and I wanted the campaign to end.
Okay. So why did you include him with us? Was there a point to that, or?
Good question. I don't know. Because I thought he would come after us regardless. I don't know.
That's fair. I totally thought he would.
That's funny.
I wouldn't have been surprised if he did.
It didn't even cross my mind to leave him there.
Well, and it is funny how your brain works in these situations.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, hindsight's 20/20. It says it all the time.
Oh,
right.
We could have done a billion things differently. You could have long rested before. You could have, whatever. There are so many things we could have done differently that would have changed the outcome of the fight. But I think in the current setup where we started, the number one thing would have been the wish to just revive everybody to full hit points and full spell slots. And
Well, the monkey's paw element of wish makes it really scary about using wish. Like, great, everybody's back with full health, nobody has spell slots. There's going to be some downside to it.
Well, and that's where
Or it doubles his health or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Something stupid.
But that's where the specifics come in. If, and as a DM, I would have been like, if Kylie, you wished for full health, full spell slots on the party only, I wouldn't have given a very bad. Like, what other effect could you have given? Because that's very specific in, I want Binks, Vinny, Victon, Lucanu, Simber, Azaka to be. Probably Azaka was the only one that wouldn't have come back because she was dead. And I guess the Soul Monger was dead, so she probably would have come back.
Well, and my thought process behind that is we didn't have a lot of health gone by the time did we?
I
By the time
I think by the time you left, it was looking a little rough.
Yeah.
I think so.
Vinny was.
when he came into the story. When
He came in.
Oh, we were
great. We stomped
so
the
that's
Afterpulse.
why I didn't use it at that point, and then after that, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, let's just see how this goes.
Yeah, no, I mean,
But-
I
no, I
wouldn't
mean-
change
Sorry.
it at all.
Sorry,
I would never
guys.
change it.
No,
absolutely do
no.
not
There's
apologize.
no reason to apologize. It was.
Goodness, no.
It was what it was. It made for a great ending. I personally thought you were going to wish to see your sister or go to your sister.
That's what I thought too.
That's what I thought you were going to do. You look around, everybody's dying. You see it. You make a run for it, and you wish to be with your sister.
Man.
Yeah,
And then you find out she's in the tomb.
Yeah, God.
She's right behind you.
What a twist!
We both died.
I think, Kylie, you said something that's kind of telling of our thoughts of the tomb is like, you wanted the tomb to end. You wanted the campaign to end, right?
Yeah.
And I think we were all on that same page, and I think that's why we're all laughing and smiling about this TPK. Is we were at this point where we were just, man, how many more levels of this tomb do we have to go through? And I don't want to get too much into the module thing because I do think we want to
we'll
talk
get
about
into that,
characters
yeah.
and stuff. But so I think that's just a testament of our feelings and our just how we were just carrying on this weight of the tomb,
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I think that's a good wrap up. I think that we've closed this chapter in our book.
Yep.
What I would like to do, this is just fun. If you guys have it prepared, great. If not, don't worry about it. I would like to do an alternate universe. I would like to, let's do a wrap up if this party had defeated a Serac, had gotten out successfully of the tomb with no death. So I'll start with Binks. I know you're ready.
I have it written out. I
want to start with Willow. Willow, what is the life after the tomb for Willow?
Willow would have found her way back to her sister, would have found her in Waterdeep. I think that, in the life I talked that did happen, her sister kind of left behind the adventuring party, but having each other, I feel like they would have had a long life of maybe adventuring, probably doing some work once they built up their skills for kings and queens, finding treasure, just kind of being this duo of
Dungeon
power
Drivers.
and yeah, for sure. And
I
I don't think that they would have ever really settled down. I think they would have grown old just traveling the world.
I like that.
It's good. Good
What
life.
what about you, Victon? What would Victon's life have been after the tomb?
There were some interesting elements throughout the story, like when we killed those guards on the boat, that I think he would have had a little bit of trouble dealing with still after the tomb, after the disastrous tomb that it was. So I think he would have spent some time meditating on that and kind of trying to clear his conscience. And I think either after or a part of that process, since his party was dead, he had nowhere specific to go. So I think he would have gone to Curseball and helped out there because they needed help.
Nice.
So I think he would have gone back there and helped with the garden or the farm or whatever they had that they needed help with. Make the stairs, even stronger and sturdier, so people don't have to deal with what we did.
I'm imagining, and so you saying that in my head now. If you've ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm imagining him like this old soldier who just is there gardening, but he's like the protector of Curseball. Like he's the dude who can bust out children from under his bed and protect the city. That's fucking cool.
I didn't even consider it as a guardianship too, but I think that's a great thing to add to it, is that he would have been that guard if they ever got attacked, or would have gone with them, because they were always out on runs for supplies and stuff. Maybe go with them or do something to help them out. Yeah, it's a great point. Thank you.
I like that. That's a good
Yeah,
wrap
that's
up
awesome.
to the Victon story.
I loved Curseball.
I
That
did
was
too.
Probably the best
That was my-
location outside of Port Nizar.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that. We talk about. Well, I don't know. Are we going to talk about like our favorite things from it, that kind of when we talk about the
Yeah,
module?
we can.
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
we'll
cool.
break
We'll
it
get
down.
back to it. All right.
Vinny,
Well, that's very
what
good.
would life have been for Vinny?
So, Vinny is a character, kind of.
Oh yeah.
He's a character in the Tomb of Annihilation. He was played
No,
by Devin. in-
hang on. So I set up pretty early that he had kind of a thing for Azaka, but never really just came out and said it. I still don't think that it was romantic love. I think he saw someone who was honorable and honest, who made him a better person. And I think he would have done everything he could in his power to get her to come with him. I had in my head that they would travel west and find out what was there, which would be Eberron? Eberron's to the west. My thought was that the two of them just become lifelong friends and companions, not romantic. I think Vinny did love her, but not in a romantic sense. I always kind of imagined their relationship as very kind of like motherly and fatherly, like they're almost like the couple that skipped the young love, and they're just comfortable
Separate
with each
beds.
other. Yes, they're just comfortable with each other. And so if Vinny had lived and if Azaka had lived, they would have traveled west and spent their lives together platonically.
Yeah.
If Azaka did not live, I think Vinny probably would have gone with Binks, wherever Binks was going.
Father-son type action.
Well, the whole arc of Vinny as a character is learning to trust people again.
Yeah.
That's his entire story is learning that, and I was watching some recap moments from him, and one of his big moments is when he says that, to Binks about him having friends that he has memories of,
Yeah.
Vinny says, at least you have memories. All I have are scars. I think the process of creating memories for people he cared about was like huge, and I don't think I could see him going back to being on his own after that. It was going to be Azaka or Binks, or it was going to be a bad ending for Vinny.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, and I think Binks would have totally like accepted you as kind of that father figure, and would have like continued adventures. And I'll get to that here in a second. But one thing I wanted to comment on Vinny and Azaka. I loved when you two would like kind of when Vinny would throw a flirt at Azaka, and Bob, you would totally shoot it down. But Vinny, you would not overreact. You'd just be like, "Yeah, playing the long game here. I'll kind of get you. And it's weird, not weird, but it's different knowing now that you weren't like in this kind of hypersexualized way. It was more just like, we're gonna get something going here, and it'll be fine. And it was always fun to hear Bob's kind of quip right back at you. It was always a good moment. So that's fun stuff.
I did like that relationship ever since the dance and Curse of Ball.
Yeah,
it was a good tit for tat. It just constant back and forth. It was great.
Yep.
And there was some feelings, just from an NPC standpoint. Like, I can put in whatever I want here, but the relationship of Azaka and Vinny grew as the party stayed together longer, and you could tell I think the ending of a platonic friendship is perfect for them, because she's a pretty complex character too, in the fact that she does have lycanthropy, in the fact that how is that she doesn't understand fully how that disease is spread. And knowing her as a character, that she has to be very... Like, it took a long time for her to show her were-tiger to the party. And not knowing how that spread, not understanding the curse, I think it would have been strictly platonic all the way through.
And not that looks are everything, but I feel like because...
Vinny's a no-go.
This is an audio format, right?
Right.
Vinny's face is fucked up.
Yeah.
He's got an eye that is his orbital bone has been shattered. So I imagine he has an eye that trails off and down to the left because of that. He has lots of scars from physical abuse from people who were close to him. He's fat. I made him kind of pudgy. Like, he kills these animals. He's got lots of meat. He sits around eating all day, and drinking alcohol.
I love it.
So even if she could if she were interested, he's not the easiest sell in the world in the first place, and I think he knew that.
Was he human?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Human variant.
Yes.
And last but not least, go ahead, Travis.
Before we get to that, hopefully this doesn't ruin anything for you, Binks, but I do think that Victon would have also tried to stay in touch a little bit with Binks to see how he had been doing the whole time, because they kind of built this reliance on each other, at least Binks more on Victon otherwise for guidance after Rosara died. So I think he would have tried to stay in touch.
Yeah, I think one of Binks's fears or flaws was that he fears strong men. I didn't play that up a whole lot. It was a tough one for me to do, especially with Vinny coming in. But I think that's what he liked about Victon, was that he wasn't this overt macho masculine figure. So he's always kind of, wanting to check in with Victon and make sure, he was all cool. But I think he would have definitely lended the invitation to come travel out of Chult for sure.
Since we're talking about like relationships with all the different characters, I would like to point out that I think the minute I as a player decided that Vinny needed to play a lot more good was when he accidentally hurt Willow's character. When was that dominate or no? I crit failed.
Yeah,
and I attacked her.
Yeah.
I think from then on out that was like a big point where I had to I was like, this is the pivot point where he has to start being a better person. And I think from then on out, I think my play style changed for him quite a bit from being the instigator and the asshole of the group into being more of like the fatherly protector, trying to keep everybody alive. Other than the point when he shot the little sloth monkey things while Willow was holding them, that was the last time I think he was really truly an asshole. And I think he did that out of a sense of stop touching stuff. We have to protect everybody. We have to get out of this alive kind of thing. So that moment where Willow's character and Vinny's character got to interact, and the way you played that was so perfect, where you were just scared to death of him and mad. And you being a young girl, I think that would have really bothered Vinny as a character, that like you were scared, and you didn't even want to talk to him for a while. I feel like before we left, I think Vinny would have tried to get you a replacement pet to take with you of some kind. I think if we all traveled back to the port or something, he would try and find you, like, not a Commandant, but like a nice house cat or something to take with you. Because I do think that there was some kind of connection made in that moment between the two characters, in the sense that, like, from then on out, a lot of his actions with your character was trying to keep you alive. And so I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I definitely felt that too, like, as my character. That it was like a kind of like a fatherly thing, that I annoyed you, but you still were, like, you had my back still.
Whatever happened to the Commandants? Have we officially decided they died?
They
We'll go
probably died.
Yeah, they're all
Oh.
okay. They're all dead. But let's go to Binks. Let's go to Binks. Binks.
Yeah, don't leave me hanging, guys.
Yeah, I
One
feel
more
like
thing.
I feel like
Just
we've
kidding.
built it up. We've built Binks
Okay,
up.
good. All right. So actually, I wrote two narratives here. Like, one, if Binks perished, which he did, and some of the things like he saw as he died. And I think one of those was, and it was more just like this sweet affirmation of these friends that he's made. And one of them was he saw Willow as this crawling out of where your hiding place when we first met you, and kind of smut covered on your face. You're just kind of like, and you're able to just kind of hitch up with these hardened adventurers. I saw that as kind of like this great moment for you, and then this other moment with Victon, and this moment that frustrated me as a person, but as the player, like Binks looks back on, it's when we were crawling Curse of Ball, and we had exhaustion points, and me being like Chris wanted to take a long rest, like, and Victon wanted to keep going. So it's like one of his dying visions of Victon was him climbing up Curse of Ball and just pushing through adversity. And then with Vinny, his dying vision of you was me, Binks, and Vinny on a hunting trip, hunting deer and skinning more deer and creating more of those memories. Because to Binks, that was one of his the big moments for him, and the turning point in his wanting to have a relationship with Vinny was that moment Vinny took him hunting. So that was kind of his fading moment. But anyway, so if Binks lived, what would happen? I wrote a whole narrative, so I'll read it and then we can talk about it. But so once the Harbor Boy school or orphanage is set up and running, Binks sets out to seek revenge upon the man who killed his mother, Haymond Rayrick. After many weeks of trying to track him down, he narrowed his location to a small cottage outside the city limits of Tribor. As Binks crested the small hill that shadowed Haymond's cottage, he saw the man that took everything, the man that instilled so much fear into his life, the man that ruined his childhood, the man that took his mother away from him. Haymond was sitting on a wicker rocking chair, on the front porch of his cottage, smoking away on a pipe, rocking back and forth. Not noticeable at first, but at the feet of Haman, playing around on the ground, was a child no more than 3 years old. Haman reaches down and picks up this little boy and bounces him on his knee, rocking back and forth. And after a few seconds, he embraces the boy with a hug and puts him back on the ground to play. Out of the cottage walks a woman, and for a second, Binks sees his mother's face in this woman. And for a second, he sees himself as the little boy playing on the ground. And for a second, his anger goes away. The swelling in his throat and around his eyes subsides. His vision is corrected. It's not his mother or him playing on the ground, but it is a second chance. For the first time in a while, there was not a huge urge to cry, but instead there was this need to sit and watch and imagine what his life could have possibly been and feel like. After watching for what seemed like a lifetime, Binks gathers his things and gets up to his feet and walks away. So it's this whole moment where Binks was going to kill this man who killed his mother right in front of his face, and he gets there and he sees this man living a life and living what seems like a happy life, and Binks can't do it. He turns around and walks away. I mean, he's got the Harbor Boy orphanage and school set up, and everything's going well there. There's no reason for Binks to take anything from this man, even though he stole everything from him. It was this weird kind of moment, and I didn't see myself finishing Binks that way until I started writing it, and it just felt right that he would have walked away.
He's seen enough death.
Yeah, he had seen so much shit, and it just wasn't worth it to ruin this little kid's life and this woman's life that he has no idea who they are. So he just walks away, and he goes back to a Baldur's Gate and lives his life out as kind of the patriarch of the Harbor Boy school for unfortunate children. And I think he's truly happy. I think Binks, after seeing that and being able to walk away, I think he becomes truly happy.
Did you call him Jeremy's kids?
Give to the charity, Jeremy.
Jeremy's not a real character.
It's Jeffrey, goddammit. Yeah, so that's how Binks ends up. If he would have lived, he didn't.
Sorry.
I would like to ask, do you separate, not that you were together, separate from Waxanari? Because so after this whole thing, she is the rightful heir,
right,
to where you're sitting, to where this entire city.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that maybe I regret not playing up enough. Is the whole Waxanari Binks relationship arc? I don't think he would stay, because I think he had this revenge. And he had this worry of the Harbor Boys. So I don't think he would stay. I think once Omu's cleared and cured and she's set up, there's not a real reason for him to stay. And he's 13 in Elven years, so that's pretty damn young. I don't think he's to that point where he's thinking like, "Ooh, I need a girl." You know,
agree.
It comes mid-40s for elves.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he would wish Waxanari well and want to make sure that she is set up and protected and everything's running there. But he would not. I don't think he would stay. Those are too big of shoes for him to fill.
I think that's fitting too, because as she's tried and being pretty sheltered life, her and her brother, she would have tried, and then once you pushed away, knowing that she's the rightful heir, that arrogance kind of comes back. So you do see Waxanari at the very end of the campaign kind of turn that leaf, and she apologized to you, Willow. Binks, she kind of just comes up and subtly grabs your hand, and she understands that you're the protector. But with that, she lives and she regains that arrogance that you first met and you knew, almost that teenage angst that just carries throughout her life. She doesn't stay around for long. She thinks any person's game at this point. And then I would say, go ahead.
So I had a question. I was wondering about this. So Omu's overrun by Yuan-Ti and Rosni. Does she get back Omu?
No. And here's why I would say no, because Rosny is there to protect the temple to an extent, and you, as we go through the module review, we'll talk about that, but they're there to protect the temple, and the moment that Acererak is defeated, he's not. As we all may know or not know, liches, once you kill them, they're not dead. You have to kill their phylacteries, and all of the urns that were sitting on the sides, those were other lich phylacteries that are in different dimensions. Acererak kind of being that arch lich, he's not dumb. His phylacteries are spread throughout the planes. They're throughout the universe as you know it. So killing Acererak today, he respawns in 10 days. So while in your head it's a victory, he comes back. So he still has Omu in his grasp. I think the ending for Mwaxanari would have been she tries to retake Omu and falls to the Yuan-Ti. Is unsuccessful. So either she dies with it, or she's coward enough to not fight in her whatever army she's gathered, or if she's by herself, didn't stay. For Artis, he is an adventurer, and if you've played some of the other modules, if you understand what the Adventurers League is, Artis Cimber is a extremely big character in those adventure leagues. His life would have been continuing to adventure. He would have kept the legacy of Dragon Bait alive, and what you guys didn't get to uncover is the ring he has is called the Ring of Frost, or the Ring of Winter. I can't remember off the top of my head. And you guys saw the stat block for that ring is ridiculous, and that's why the Frost Giants were in Chult. They were looking for the ring, so he's constantly running away from these giants, and I was kind of hoping you guys found him because Vinny, that played into your backstory.
Yeah, I speak giant.
But he spends the rest of his days living out the next adventure, constantly looking to better the world, and do what he can. Azaka, I think, would have absolutely gone with you, Vinny. Wherever the travels went, her curse is kind of a thing she runs from, and running to the west out of Chult, out of what her understanding is a direction that she would take. Luke Nu would have stayed and fought for Mwaxanari till the end. She was a protector and a bodyguard to Queen Napaka, and knowing that she would have fought till the end, and she probably would have been there trying to help retake Omu from Yuan-Ti and maybe gave her life finally. Alternate universe. Anything?
What could have been?
Yeah, what could have been? Anything?
D&D 2099.
What's really interesting about talking about all of you guys' characters is you guys had so much character development before I came into the campaign that sometimes you guys are talking about your characters and I'm like, oh, I don't see that, and it's only because I, came in pretty much after you guys had done most of
the character building.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because we've been trying to put together clips as far as these are our favorite moments for our characters. You were introduced in episode 15. Yeah. That's exactly halfway through the entire show. But it's so the development of who these people are is so front loaded as a group that it's unfortunate. I don't feel like we got to know Willow and get her to really mesh with the group. That's why I'm super excited for Waterdeep. I want to see this group from the beginning build those relationships and build a deep bond as a group as we go through it. But yeah, I was shocked. I thought it was I thought you were there for 10 episodes, and you were there for half of the what's out there for people to listen to.
Yeah, I was telling Bob before we started streaming, we were in Omu for a long fucking time.
Long goddamn time.
And we didn't move. We're just in Omu or in level 1 of the tomb.
Yeah.
And just forever.
I mean, I was gone for 2 months, and we were pretty much in the Omu and the tomb for that entire time.
Yeah.
You didn't miss anything.
Well,
I really didn't. That's the crazy part.
let's go ahead.
Before
and
we go
collect
to-
this out.
Before we go to module, like our thoughts on the module, is that where you were headed?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question to each one of you about your character. Did you end up playing your character the way you had originally written them? Because I know, Vinny, you had talked about there's one point where you took a left turn. Like, you kind of had to change some of the things. So what was your intention with your character, and did you end up playing that intention?
I'll start. So I had 2 characters for the tomb. I had Rosara, who was a cleric. And the whole idea for her was that she was going to be this wild spirit. You know, she runs away from home. And then I know, because I couldn't get it to come through. The entire beginning of the campaign was people doing crazy, stupid shit, and Rosara being like, "Don't do that. Don't do that."
Right.
So she became like super motherly and like the stick in the mud, keeping everybody from doing everything fun. So when I got an opportunity for her to die, I was kind of cool with it because like she wasn't turning out the way I wanted her to be. So that was kind of a thing that happened because of the party composition of, okay, well, I don't get to be the free spirit, lover of life that I wanted her to be.
Yeah.
She's got to be and it's kind of funny because her whole thing was she was the oldest of 11 kids. She got stuck watching the kids.
Oh, man.
And she didn't want to do that. So she runs away to be a missionary for Ontar, and she ends up in Chult babysitting a group of adventurers.
With Binks. Yeah.
Babysitting a group of children.
Binks' biggest thing was like, Rosara, you were my new mother figure. And like,
Yeah.
I'm going to attach myself to you.
Yeah. So once she died, I was like, okay, well, I feel like this party needs some drama, was like my whole thought. I was like, I want to make an anti-hero. I want to make the guy who's here with the group and probably like shouldn't be. And my inspiration was I had been watching some old Lost in Space episodes. And I love the idea. If you'd have never watched it, the story is this family of space adventurers. They get stranded away from Earth with this doctor guy that is like a cohort of their dad, of the dad of the families, the Robinsons. And he's a bad fucking dude. So like the entire show is them stuck with this villain, but they have to work together to survive because they're lost in space. And that was my whole thought, was like, I want that character. I want to be the guy who's despicable and underhanded and is just lighting fires all over the place, and the party's going to have to go around and stamp him out. And he's going to get his comeuppance from time to time because he's going to do something stupid and get put in his place. And early on, mission accomplished. Like, I feel like I got that. And when Jimmy died,
Yeah, Jimmy.
I'm sorry, I'm going to do that till the end of my days. So when Jeffrey died, I needed to make a choice because my first thought was he's going to give Binks shit about this, and he's going to tell him to get up off his feet, wipe his nose, and get back to work. And it's going to be really bad. Like, I think Binks might kill him. And so I had to like alter what I wanted him to be. And because truth be told, when you're bonding with these characters and you're playing with these people all the time, you fall in love with their characters. So Vinny, who I wanted to play kind of neutral, maybe at best, not outright evil, just self-serving as fuck. I found it hard to do because he did begin to, when he saw the heartbreak that Binks was going through, I think he felt bad for him. And I think he also felt jealous of him because Vinny does not have anybody in his life that he would ever mourn. And I believe that he became attached to Victon, and again, that aspect of somebody being honorable he became attached to Willow because she made him realize that like how he acts hurts people, and he's become the thing he hated the most, like a bully. Like he's become that person who his dad, who beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
He's become the the partner that stabbed him in the back. And so I didn't ever intend for him, one, to live till the end. I fully expected that the party might murk him, the party might tell him to leave, and I never expected him to actually evolve into a well-rounded person. I was playing a trope. I was playing the villain stuck with the adventurers, and I fell in love with the character, and I knew I had to make changes if he was going to survive.
I like that. Yeah, I too. I like that. What about you, Binks?
So playing Binks, it was almost a joke at first because the warning before Tomb was like, "Hey, have 3 characters ready. You're gonna fucking need them." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll play this one. He's a fighter. He'll be just a little boy, whatever." Thinking he's not gonna last. I'll go on to my next character, which is actually kind of an iteration of my Waterdeep character. I'll play that one, which I really want to run with. So Binks I wasn't thinking I was going to play him at all. So, but he ended up just hanging around, just kind of being the archer, sitting in the back, and he's got pretty high armor class. So, anytime he would get in melee, it was okay for him, and he just kept hanging around. I didn't really know how I was going to play him, and then things happen. Like we pick up Victon. He sees Victon as a strong male, that's kind of humble. And then we pick up Vinny, and he's this kind of braggadocious, kind of I don't give a fuck what you're gonna do. So I didn't really have a way. I didn't have an idea of how Binks is gonna make it to the end, what Binks would look like at the end. So it's really just building on every moment and kind of how is it all adding up. And I think it went pretty well. And this is a moment where I pat myself on the back a little bit, and I'm happy with the way that I was able to take some of those encounters and build them into Binks and kind of embody Binks. So I don't know. There was a moment when Rosara died that I remember. I was thinking about multi-classing into Rogue, and he was going to become this kind of, the mother figure's gone. So kind of while the cat's away, the mice will play.
Teenage rebellion.
Yeah, he was going to become a pickpocket and just kind of
start wearing black.
But we immediately left Port Nyanzaru, so it didn't make any sense at that point because we're now in the fucking wilderness. Who am I gonna steal from there? He was going to go back to more of his harbor boy ways, like stealing bread to survive kind of thing. So that didn't happen. So there was a moment in time where I thought that was an avenue I was going to travel down. So I don't know. He ended up being what he was, and I'm happy with Binks, and I'm so glad that I got to play him, and I had some emotional moments with Binks and saw some growth. So I can't say I would change anything, and I can't really speculate as to what I thought he would be.
What about you, Willow?
So, my character is super bittersweet for me. It was super bittersweet because I had never played a druid before. I really wanted to play a druid, but I was like, oh, I'm just going to be doing this one shot with this group of dudes that streams on Twitter, and so I didn't put a lot of effort into Twitch, yeah. I didn't put a lot of effort into my backstory, and I didn't really develop the character's personality, really. I was like, oh, I'll just be this silly girl from, that shows up. And so I ended up playing her and really never having a developed story for her, and it made it really hard to role play. But then once I started, I felt like I couldn't really go back. And then I also didn't really want to put the effort into it because I was like, oh, it's a meat grinder. She's going to die in 2 episodes. So I'm a little disappointed. I definitely will play a druid in the future that I can kind of maybe delve into a little bit more. Yeah. So I wasn't super happy with my character, to be completely honest. But like I said, I thought she was going to die.
We made it.
Yeah.
We made it, yay!
She made it to the end.
She made it, yay!
I think Devin kind of touched on this too, is like, you came in after we had all meshed and kind of created characters, and I wish like we had Willow during those early sessions, so that when we're in the tomb, we have this connection, and it's all fleshed out, and it was something a little bigger. It's a tough spot to be in, coming in the middle of a meat grinder.
Well, and there were situations where you could tell she was the outsider of the group still, like, oh, hey, let me help you. And everybody was like, or hey, pass. Part of that was because she was goofy and maybe always didn't have the greatest ideas. But
so I don't know if you meant this to be intentional, but I loved, like, I got a real sense that she was kind of a girl in over her head. Like,
that was totally intentional.
She was just like, I'm gonna go be an adventurer. I'm going into the jungle, and then like she ends up like completely. And I love that. Like, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I thought it was such a good like depth layer to a character that, by your own admission, wasn't like completely fleshed out. You thought she was just gonna die, and and that played through the entire campaign. Of like, she's in way over her head. She doesn't have a clue what's going on, and I did highly enjoy role playing off of that, and figuring out how to make that work.
Well, and two, I think Willow brought some levity to the group, some spontaneity.
Yes,
like we were all pretty serious. Binks is an emotional mess. Victon's pretty just stoic, and Vinny's kind of the asshole. Well, you brought the comedy in, and I think we needed that at that moment.
Yes,
we needed that so much heading into Omu, and I think that was like the biggest contribution that Willow provided to the group was that levity, just being able to just like relax and just have a good time. And hey, oh, by the way, I'm going to take this Commandant, and it's now my pet. So I think it was much needed for everybody.
Yes, the comic relief was very well appreciated.
Good.
And last but not least, Victon.
I feel like my answer is more complicated, but also simplistic. I didn't have any expectations going into it. My character, Victon, was built like half hour before my first game started.
It was built over the first month.
It was built with Devin. It was built with Bob, and it was basically enough to get my character going. I didn't have personality traits. I didn't even know what they were, how those were decided. I didn't know the ideals, bonds, flaws, none of those things. It wasn't until I think it was until I finally created my second character for backup for this that I even realized, you should have personality traits or any of that. But I think I kind of leaned into it fairly well. I tried. I definitely didn't live up to the paladin ideals that I probably could have. There were some shortcomings there in many ways, I think. But I think I did pretty good for my first character, especially as a paladin. There was so much more to it. I just kind of liked the paladin because I liked the paladin character back in Final Fantasy II. It's always been my draw. I always pick paladins in games, and there's never been a rhyme or reason for it. So I think it worked out really well. I definitely, once I got around to picking out my personality traits and stuff, I tried to lean in with them as well as I could. Some of them were kind of accidental. Like, one of my flaws was I overlook obvious solutions in favor of complicated ones, which is something I just do in general. So, I think that worked out really well for the puzzles. The rest of them were kind of, I could take them or leave them. So I didn't have a huge attachment to Victon. I mean, it was my first character, so there's that. But other than that, I'm not going to miss him much. I think I would love to return to the Paladin class, maybe even a Dragonborn again, and just really live up to the roleplay of that, because I didn't know what roleplaying really meant for this scale of a game.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I'm looking forward to Waterdeep, because Victon, you're now moving on to, you've gone through Travis, you now have gone through Victon, and now now you get to grow. And I think that's where I was at in this campaign with Binks, is like I'd played a couple, kind of like struggling through, and then Binks was finally the moment where I got to kind of open up and embrace all of that. And so that'll be kind of cool to see where you go with
you were spectacular with Binks. Let me just say that. Well, fantastic, all the things that he had going on and the emotional aspect of it. I mean, you were the best of the role plays, in my opinion. No offense, Devin. I think you were really good too. But Binks was
Yeah.
far and away the best.
I think we all had some really
For sure.
great moments.
Oh yeah.
So can I pivot kind of off of this? You mentioned that you had a second character, cutting room floor. What were your characters on the cutting room floor?
Oh
If you're not planning on using them for
no, I have another one.
Okay,
So
tell me.
if Binks was gonna bite it in the tomb, I had a Tabaxi Bard ready to go, and he was just going to be kind of a slick kind of guy, and I think he would not have meshed with Vinny at all, and maybe that's kind of was the motivation there. Is like Binks and Vinny were kind of at the hip a little bit. It's like, okay, let's break away from that. Let's build an antagonist, an antithesis to what Binks was for Vinny. I don't know that it would have worked out, just being like in the tomb. It's high stress. I don't know that it would have been a good fit, but it felt right. It felt like something that would be kind of fun. But looking back now, I don't know that it would work.
I had a rock gnome bard that I was gonna do.
That sounds awesome.
Full stop right there. Like,
Please tell me he's into like Swedish death metal or something.
I didn't get into the musical aspect of it for that design. But personality-wise, and I'm going to reuse this because I kind of used it in our Halloween one, I think. I wanted a character that was mischievous and just a happy-go-lucky, crazy all over the place, and he was going to be it. And I think I'm still going to use that later somehow. I might even still go for the Rock Gnome Bard. I'm actually doing a Rock Gnome for my next character in Waterdeep, so
yes,
it's going to be fun. His name was Zook Knackle Stumbleduck.
Nice!
Suggestions of names in the book, and I just picked the craziest of them all, and I loved them, and it was just going to be a perfect fitting for the character he was going to be. He's going to live up to that wacky, ridiculous name in Hope anyway.
Great.
I don't know if I could have pulled it off, but I was hoping to challenge my role-playing abilities that I don't know that I have still.
Nice. Willow, did you have a backup?
I did. I kind of touched on this a little bit on my Twitter once, but I really wanted to play a Warforged, like super old, super like wise, very, I don't know, like graceful, but like a sorceress kind of, like very different from I think a typical Warforged.
Gandalf.
Kind of, yeah. So, but I, didn't really develop her all that much, to be completely honest. What about you?
Vinny?
I had a fully fledged out, ready to go character. Her name was Pavanosis Inexplicita, and she was a fallen angel warlock. I wanted to do something with an ASMR, but I wanted to actually be a fallen angel, not a progeny of a fallen angel. And my whole concept was, because of the Soul Monger, things are wrong in the celestial planes.
Nice.
And there is war going on over it. And she was going to be a good angel who made a mistake and has fallen to Earth and has to destroy the Soul Monger to gain redemption and ascendancy back to the celestial plane. And I was totally ready to rock her. I picked her up after we left Curseball. Before that, I had a bard named Professor Power Ballad, and his backstory was going to be that he had lost all his street cred, and so he's decided it was not a good tomb character, and this is why
we got serious.
This is why this is cutting room floor. So he lost. He's a rock star, and he was like an OG kind of thing, and then people started thinking he's lame, and he's lost his cool factor, and so he goes out into the jungle to try and gain some of that notoriety back. And build like these tall tales about himself. So that was the cut that would have probably never made it to game. I think if Vinny had died at some point before that, I probably would have just done something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, Professor Power Ballad and Pavlonosis and Explicita are my were my two cutting room floor characters.
So I do have a question for Bob, but he's taking a phone call right now. So where does your character sit on your all-time list of characters that you've played? So I know for Travis, is a very small amount of characters, but where do they sit?
I'll
Second.
go first on this one.
I'd like to.
So, oh, you could go first. Sorry.
Because it's easy. Second. Victim is second on mine. I really, really loved my Halloween character. I loved how mischievous and shit starter he was.
Yeah, he was awesome.
I loved it, and I really want to
you
bring
did
that explicitly back. That was so fun.
Well,
but he's second. That was first.
Nice. And I think, Travis, that's what that leaves me wanting to see you in Waterdeep, is because that Halloween character you played was pretty awesome, man. You were like totally embracing it. It's like, not that you weren't embracing Victon, but it's like, this is a different side of Travis, like different. Yeah. We're seeing some of his role-playing chops there. So it's making me want to kind of see what's in the works there coming up.
Yeah, that was so beyond my comfort zone, but I really enjoyed it. There was a darker aspect to him I didn't get to, and I want to get to if I can. And then third would have been Thrash from Murder in New Bruges. He was just
the shirtless
guy.
There were a lot of fun things that came out of him. I don't know if I was very consistent. I tried to be fairly consistent with who he was, but he was a very basic character.
Yeah. Nice.
So.
Willow?
I was just going to go because it's pretty easy for me too. I think this is, I hate to say it, but maybe my least favorite character I've
I saw that coming with what you
Because, yeah, exactly. Because what I had said before is for me, D&D is more about role play than it is the battles and the combat. And I didn't get that with her. And part of that was the fact that I didn't develop her backstory. I wasn't there for the character development. And it's the tomb. You just can't.
Yeah.
So, I think she's my least favorite.
You were in a bad spot coming into it because you didn't know if you were going to be with us long term. And then you came in even later than I did, which put me at a disadvantage. I can't imagine what you were at feeling that way. So, it was harder for you. So it's totally understandable. That would be your least favorite.
Even though it was your least favorite character, you had moments in the tomb that were like in this campaign that were pretty concrete in all of our memories. That kind of have a spot. And I think that this is something to you as a player is. Mm-hmm. Like, even though I'm not really enjoying this character, you're still involved in kind of building the scene with everybody else. So.
I would never have guessed you didn't like her that much. Relative to
really?
Characters. You did a good job. I really liked Willow.
Good.
I think Binks sits pretty high on my list. One, just because it's like the first character I've played for a long time, and completed a module with. There's some out there that I wish I had the chance to keep playing. Like my very first character, I wish I could kind of figure him out more, but because I can't, I'm gonna put Binks at the top. Like Binks right now, he's wearing the crown. He's my favorite character of all time. So, Devin,
I think Vinny is the best work I've ever done as a role player. I fear that I will not reach the highs that I got out of Vinny again, and that's kind of a little daunting and scary to me. I really put a lot of heart into Vinny. Not that I don't put it into my other characters, but like I said, Rosara didn't turn out the way I wanted her to. Other characters have turned out not the way I wanted them to, and Vinny was not as I originally planned him, but I love him. He's top of my list. And he got a good death, and that it's funny. I like my character deaths as much as I love character creation, especially if you get some kind of say in that and some agency in letting that happen. Which is something I'm going to have to watch out for myself for. I do this in a lot of games where I think I make my character make the sacrificial, move, and I'm going to have to make sure I don't fall into that being like my thing. Moving forward, but Vinny, number one by far. I'm going to miss him a lot.
I will say we got a rough cut going of Vinny highlights that we're working through, and I got goosebumps, man, when you were when you grabbed the lich and then you're like, I'm gonna whisper it in his ear and say, "This is for my love," man. I got some serious goosebumps as you were just like envisioning what this looks like. You just swan diving into the lava and whispering that in this son of a bitch's ear, man. It was a great moment. And
I'm not. If I were DM, and this is not the criticism in any way, it would have been very hard for me to not be like,
that's it.
you fall into the lava.
The tomb's open.
As Vinny sinks into the lava along with the lich, you wait for 5, 10, 15 minutes and nothing happens. That probably is how I couldn't have resisted it. I would be like, we're never going to get a moment like this ever in a game again. But no.
I think that goes back to Bob as the DM when we said, do not pull
punches. Do not pull punches.
So
yes.
That's it, man. That's not the ending you're going to get today, you know?
Yep.
So I do want to ask Bob, like, you didn't have a character, right? So who are some of your favorite PCs that you played, and what are some of the highlights, and what are some of the things that you maybe would do differently if you had a second chance?
Favorite PC that I played, or NPC rather, or are we talking outside of this game?
No, we're talking this.
Let's talk this game, yeah.
This game.
And then where do these PCs rate on your list?
NPCs. My favorite was the old
I know it. I already know it. God damn it! I knew it. You're such a troll.
And so what I would have done differently is actually recorded it.
I really wish
so that's
were
the biggest
recorded.
regret is we don't have that on
that
film somewhere.
by far
so good.
was so. I was picking on Travis, and I'll admit it just straight out. He hadn't been terribly involved, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna get Travis involved tonight.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, hey, Travis, I'm going to be a bully to you. It was, how do I get Travis's character involved? And so it's this old guy just out there fishing, and Travis walks up to him and like, and so it's this conversation about nothing that goes on for a half an hour, and you're just like, is he going to walk away?
Was it really that long?
Yeah, I kept waiting. Dude, I was.
Long time,
I think I PM'd Chris or DM'd Chris like, are we gonna have to go get him?
Yeah.
Like, is he gonna just let this go?
It was half an hour, at least 15 minutes
so
to 30
good.
minutes. I think my shining moment that I enjoyed the most was the Oni, and the Oni was such a fun villain. Like it wasn't like a main villain. It wasn't like this long story arc that was going to stretch out. It created this sense of doom that hadn't been felt for a while. And so I feel like when we played the module, it was kind of like, ha ha ha, meat grinder, this is fun, let's go die. But then it got serious. When the moment that Rosara died and the moment that we left Port 9 Zaru, it got serious. And it was almost too easy to an extent. And that's, you guys did a very good job of being players in Cholt, in the jungles. But it was almost too easy. And so this Oni is like this nightmare that is just, you have no idea when it's going to strike. You have no idea what's going to happen. And it's just there. It's always there. And then probably one of my other favorite characters was Azaka. The tit for tat that she and Vinny had was a pretty memorable experience for me.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the episode titles kind of in the middle of our run here. And they were all centered around the Oni. Like, it's us or him. Tonight we finally sleep. It's like all this shit that's just the Oni fucking with us over and over again. And really, I'll throw some accolades your way. It's like running the Oni in some of those encounters was pretty awesome. The way that you would kind of show yourself and then come back and then back out and like leave us like, fuck, we just need to kill this motherfucker. And it was just so much of our role play and our mentality and game planning was centered around how are we going to beat the Oni. So much so that Chris, who's not here, made a character that is just an Oni killer. Like that's so focused on just getting rid of the Oni. It's like I think I don't want to delegitimize the Lich, but the Oni was my favorite villain and the favorite bad guy that we fought. It was just because of the stretch and the showing itself and pulling back and just what it caused to the party. It was my favorite part, I think.
I think one thing that I would have changed a little bit more was maybe the Lich's presence in the tomb. There, in thinking about it now, again, hindsight 2020, it would have been fun to have that Oni presence with Acererak and with the Lich and making his presence known here.
Yeah.
That wherever you guys are going, it's not going to be good. I think that's one of the things I would have changed.
See, I would disagree. I liked the fact that we didn't know what was at the end of the tomb. It was like Jaws. It's a complete mystery. We had no idea what the Soul Monger looked like. We had no idea who was behind it. We had no idea what it actually even fucking was. We just knew it was called the Soul Monger, and it's at the heart of the tomb, and that was it. And so I liked that he wasn't there until he was, and he was this all-consuming presence that we were not prepared for. Like that, it was a nice contrast to the Oni, who was. We slowly learned about him and devised a plan for him. It was a very different battle for the mini boss as opposed to the big bad evil guy at the end. Yeah. So I like that he was a complete mystery to us. It felt appropriate for the two.
Okay.
I want to throw out there that I loved Dragon Bait. Dragon Bait?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I loved that he was subtle but gruff. And that, like, I don't think that, like, as far as NPCs go, he's probably the most I've ever felt, like, connected to. Maybe not my character, but me personally, because I was like, I know he's back there. I know that he's kind of like this safekeeper, but still like a grumpy old fart. Like, I adored him, and he was definitely my favorite NPC.
Yeah,
I wish I could have gotten to know him.
I think that played through in the game. Like we said, no, we are not leaving Dragonbait here. We are taking him somewhere safe and giving him as proper as we can kind of burial. And I think if Bob doesn't kind of create those threads and kind of get us involved and interested in caring for this character, we don't. Like, fuck it, there's Dragonbait, who gives a shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't the case, and we were attached to Dragonbait. Yeah, I think everybody was pretty sad when Dragonbait fell. Damn it.
Yeah. I feel like Azaka would have been the only one that would have had a little bit more impact if she fell before.
For sure.
But